Hi everyone, it's Diane with Batik, and today is Fabric Friday. I'm having an actually great Friday because I waited to the last minute to select fabrics for our summer savings event, and so I spent a bunch of time doing that today, which is always super fun because I get to kind of go through all of our fabric and pick out what haven't I shared so far, what do I just absolutely have to show you, and what have I made from this. And it always leads to what am I going to make next, which is really super fun, to be honest. It is fun for me. We get so in the weeds of processing orders, cutting fabric, making bundles, making rayon remnant packs, and then taking time to sew, that sometimes I don't just like walk around and take it all in, which is what I was sort of doing this morning, which has been kind of fun. So I might be a little late in getting this video out, but it was well worth it. So as you can see, I'm wearing one of our August garments, and I want to just do a quick summary. We selected at the end of July several projects that focused on one project of each of our fabric collections. This is our Jersey Knit project for this month, and then I'm also going to give you an update on the canvas project, the two open and zipper pouches, and a gradation project. So without further ado, I think I'm just going to jump in and talk about this sweatshirt. This is the Mile End Sweatshirt by Closet Core. And as you can see, there's two different views, and I'm going to go into some of this in detail. You're going to see a layout of all of the pattern pieces, and it's not actually a layout of how the fabrics were cut from the 72-inch wide fabric. I didn't do that this time because Kathy cut out the pattern pieces. She does an amazing job tracing them onto tissue paper and cutting everything out. And so what I'm showing you is going to be each one of the pattern pieces, so you know what goes into making this sweatshirt. But actually, let's jump to that right now. On the cutting table is our pattern pieces that have been cut out with our Jersey Knit, and this is the Mile End Sweatshirt by Closet Core. I'm really excited to stitch up this sweatshirt. There are two different views to the sweatshirt. One is a traditional hoodie with a V crossover front and a pocket. The second is a round neck, traditional sweatshirt that you just pull over your head. And I'm going to make a size 14, and that's what we have cut out here. I'm doing a little bit of actually I'm going to stick with this picture for just a moment. I changed this up a little bit. I always seem to do that. I'm not going to put the hood on it, but I do have enough fabric left to put a hoodie on it. But I'm simply going to do the cross front sweatshirt with a pocket and have a simple back facing to the back neck. That's what I'm doing for my version of this. Let's talk a little bit about the pattern pieces. What I've laid out here are the back, which is on a center fold, and this is three pieces. There's the yoke, there's the main portion of the back, and it's kind of interesting because the back piece right over here swings around to the front of the sweatshirt. And then we have the back hem band that is attached below the back of the jacket. This portion here is the front of our sweatshirt, and this is going to be the V of the front. Here is our pocket, which is on the fold, and then we also have a front hem band. And we need to make sure of where our stretch is on the hem bands as well as the cuff to the sleeve. These two pieces are what make up each sleeve. There's a center seam, there's darts to add detail, and then we have our sleeve cuff as well. So there, when you really take a look at this entire layout, it really utilizes our 72-inch wide jersey knit very, very well. And I think it's just going to be really, really fun to work with. I'm going to go through a few of the details of this garment as well. It has a traditional neckband, even for the round version, as well as the back neck that I'm going to put on the V-neck version of this sweatshirt. It is actually a drop shoulder. So the back piece and the front piece are longer right across the shoulder, so that it's going to drop down and then attach our sleeves to that drop shoulder. The back of the garment, you can see here, there's a curve. So there's a really nice stylistic curve to the back of the jacket. And then the sleeve, as I had mentioned, it's 2 pieces that will sew up the center, and then there's a dart as well. And we can top stitch these. We can do anything we want to add any decoration to them as well. There is the side seam. There really isn't one. As I had mentioned, the back piece here will attach to the front, and so the side seam is really wrapped around to the front of the sweatshirt. So it's really going to be interesting to see how this works and how it actually lays. And then this is going to be relatively short for my taste. I typically have everything so long, but this will land right at the hip, because here on the front pattern piece, the waist is right down here, and then we're going to have our pocket on top of that waist marking. So I think it's really going to be fun to add this, and I think that's called a kangaroo pocket to the front, and stitch this whole thing up. And we really have had to also, Kathy drew all of these copies of the pattern pieces, and then laid our straight of grain on each one of the pattern pieces across the jersey knit, because we always want to make sure that the stretch is going around us, not against us, going up and down. I find it interesting to see all the various pieces that go into a garment, and I think that was very good to illustrate the back pieces, the front pieces, and the 3 pieces for the sleeve: the front, the back, and the cuff. I did make the hood, so I do have a hood on here, and it is, let me put the hood up so you can kind of see it. It is a floppy hood. but it will do the trick. If it's raining outside and you're worried about your gorgeous hair, then we want to make sure that we have a hood. But it is a floppy hood. I do have an idea. You can put elastic. If you wanted to, you could string some elastic through here and just leave it in there at all times. You know, just seal it in there. And I think it will give you a little bit of pull around your face if that's what you're looking for. But if you like the look of just having a hood and the accent of that hood, make the hood. It's worth it. It's great. Let me stand up so that you can see the jacket. I keep calling it a jacket, but I'm going to pull down my t-shirt here. It is short. It's like a crop sweatshirt. Okay, because my hips are here. Well, they start there. That's my hip bone. And so it's relatively short for me. I like something a little bit longer, but it is really full. There is about 10 inches of ease in this garment. The sleeves have a really nice fit to them. I did do the kangaroo pocket, which is simple to attach. And I will say a couple things about this garment. The pattern itself, and I've worked with many of the Closet Core patterns, it's very well written, it's very well illustrated. Every step-by-step is wonderful. I did a couple of different things. I serged this almost exclusively, except for where some of the seams are inside or the finishing is inside. I used my sewing machine and used the stretch stitch, the one that looks like a lightning bolt, to finish those seams off. There are a couple of places where it says you can use just a straight stitch, which is fine, but I always like my stretch stitch because we're working with knit. And so I really do use that stitch on my sewing machine. The edge of the facing that goes all the way around your cross V in the front through your hood is just it's not an attached facing. It's just a simple fold over 3/4 of an inch and then top stitch, or use your cover stitch, double needle, however you would like to finish this edge. What I did, because I like a finished look, is I did take, and hopefully you can see this, and I serged the edge all the way around and then folded it, pressed it, and top stitched it. I just like everything finished, even though it's a knit and it doesn't need to be. That's what I do. And I found it amazing how I used, this is really a pink, but I used red thread and it just melts into here really beautifully. Now, what I'm gonna do on my second version is I'm going to lengthen it a couple of inches. I need it just a little bit longer. So what I did is I grabbed the front pattern piece for the V, and this is the view C. So here's the V, the front facing or the V side of the pattern piece. Here's our straight of grain line, our sleeve, and then the angle of the front piece, okay? So down here is where we need to lengthen or shorten this sweatshirt. It is below or in the same spot as the kangaroo pocket. So it's right down here where we're gonna lengthen it. And I just think that 2 inches or so is what I'm gonna do to make this a little longer. And as I was putting together our fabric selections for the summer savings event, I decided that I'm going to use the Medora Flora Dusty Topaz, which I have never done anything with, and that's going to be my next one. So stay tuned. It is a super fast make, truly. Now it might have been that way because Kathy actually laid out the pattern pieces and cut them out for me, but that was great. But anyway, the sewing of it was really, really fast, and I think you will enjoy this sweatshirt. The other version that's included in this pattern is a round neck with a gathered, now that I've seen the actual instructions, the front hemline or hem band has openings for gathering, so that you can cinch it in a little bit and give it a little bit more of a style at the hemline. So that is the only difference. The round neck and the hemline is the difference between these two versions. So it really has a lot of different options for you. But I don't know, I just think that the loose fittingness of this, and it's a little warm outside to be wearing this here today. It's in the 80s, but I am ready for fall. I think this is going to be perfect. And I don't even know if I told you, this is the Violetta motif in the shade of Strawberry. So we have accomplished our jersey knit project for the month of August, and I'm looking forward to another one, and gotta figure out a project for September. Okay, the next update I want to give you is I'm going to show you these again. These are the open and zipper pouches. The pattern is by Annie, and we used our canvas and cotton for these bags. I did a video of how, kind of a step-by-step of how to make this bag using this medium size. However, I ran into a little glitch when I was finishing the binding all the way around the edges here and adding the zipper. And so I'm gonna go back and re-video that using the small bag, because I really wanna make sure that you can see exactly how I put the fabric underneath the presser foot and how I use the stiletto to really get a nice accurate binding all the way around. And I think I just needed to make sure that it was right for you guys. So it's taking a little bit longer than I wanted to, but we'll get it out there. So that's an update on that. The second project I wanted to update you on is our quilt out of our Nuance Gradations. I am planning this project right now. It is the Ombre Lattice project, and it just sings gradations to me. I just really love how this looks. And I've learned a lot along the way, because sometimes patterns are written specifically for a fabric collection and only that fabric collection, unless you do a lot of other rework and design to get the project to look either similar to this, if that's what attracts you, or your own look to it. And I'm starting by saying that because the fabric that this features is a specific collection that is a gradation. It is an ombre, thus the name of the pattern. But what the difference is between this ombre and ours is it starts with a color, changes to a light color, and then repeats itself on the other side. So dark on the outside, changing color into the center. That's what this pattern is based on, and how everything is cut out and how everything is laid out and all the fabric requirements. Our fabric, and I'm just going to grab one piece here, and this is probably not the right one for me to be picking out, but this is our gradations. Start with a color and then change color all the way across to another color, or they are a single one fabric color, like our purple, which is a light purple to a dark purple. So with that said, I've had to do a lot of planning and a lot of rework to make this project show our fabric really, really cool. And so that is what I'm working on right now. And I have a lot of ideas, and it's going to be so much fun. So I have one block made, and you guys all helped me figure out the background shade. Let me show you this one more time. The front here, you see how the white is kind of the background fabric? And then there's a black that sets off the center of each one of the blocks, because one of these colorways is a block, okay? And we'll go through this in detail. I'm hoping to have an update next Tuesday for you on this. I have switched this around because you guys like black or dark fabric as your background. And I think it's really gonna set off the colors that we select for this project. So here is a block, and I'm gonna turn it this way. So I haven't squared it up or anything, so here is the block. I'm going to step back just a little bit here. So it is comprised of 4 different pieces. This piece, you can probably guess which ones they are. This piece here, this, and this. And so I cut it the exact same way, all the pieces from the 2.5-inch strips of fabric, the same way that the pattern describes, and laid them out a little bit differently because I was not really happy with how each one of the shades was gradually changing in color. And so this might not look like it changes in color very much, but one strip of fabric changes in color from here to here. And this is the purple, okay? And so our background is now going to be hand-dyed deep wisteria. So this is our dark blue. And where the black was on the pattern piece, or the pattern cover, is going to be our glacier, okay? So I just think it's going to be great when I pull all of this together. You're going to see the difference in how the quilt will look using our gradations. Okay, so let me know what you think about this and whether or not I should make any changes. But I think it's too early to tell, but I can't wait to get more blocks up so that you can see how this is all going to look together. And I have to decide if I'm going to incorporate some of the fabrics where we change in color from one to another. I have an idea on how to use those, and so that is kind of what I'm excited about to lay out this weekend. Okay, so that's our update on our gradation project, which I'm super excited about. And next, let's talk a little bit about the featured fabrics for this week's summer savings event. This week, our collection of 115-inch wide batik cottons are really super special. We have a selection of all over batik, stamp batiks, as well as our grouping. We have 3 different fabrics here from our double border collection of fabrics that we often use for home decorating projects, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But starting over here on the left, we have Medora Flora, and this is the shade of dark ruby, and it's just a mix of corals and pinks and ruby reds. It's a little bit more subtle than if you think about a bright red, but it's just such a gorgeous mix of shades. And it actually has hints of the undertones of the firecracker red over here, which I'm going to talk about next. This is the color of, you know something, it's either Dazzle or Firecracker Red, but we went with Firecracker Red because it has less of the corally oranges in it. And it is a mix of purples. Behind the scenes here, you can see a little bit of brown. There's reds, there's just that fire red color, and lilac, and just a mix of beautiful, beautiful shades. And thinking about this on the back of a quilt or as a tablecloth or whatever you want to make out of this would just be amazingly beautiful. So I think I only picked 2 other than dusty blues and greens over here. And then we have a tuxedo brass back over in the corner. The next one is Violetta motif. And this is the shade of Dusty Denim. So it's a really light blue. This is also Dusty Denim and would go very well together if you were making a coordinating project. Emerald, dark emerald is this fabric. And I really like to show this green with other greens so that you can kind of see the difference in its shade. It is kind of I guess you would call it more of a yellowy blue green than a juniper or a hunter green. This is the Medora Flora motif in the shade of dark emerald. And remember, we send swatches. So if this is something that you would like to see some different shades of, definitely go to the items on our website that are specifically set up for requesting swatches. This is Vine in the shade of olive. Very beautiful. I just really love this particular shade of green. And Vine was the very, very first motif Bruce designed for us. This is getting into more of the dusty blues and topaz blues. This is Gardeniste Divine in the shade of Ocean Teal. And what I'm going to do with this one is open this up next to the next 2, actually all 4 of these together. This, just so you can see the color change and the color differences. This is Valhalla motif, and so it's a little tinier motif than even the Gardeniste Divine is. And this is the shade of Dusty Topaz. Here is Copen. You can kind of see the shades of Copen in the darker blues of the Dusty Topaz as well. These all go together so well. And I would, if I were putting together a bundle of fat quarters or half yards, I definitely would put all of this grouping together. This is Violetta Copen Blue. And then last but never least is one of your favorite fabric colors, which is Lake. So this is the Valhalla motif, again, in the shade of Lake. We also have Lake available as a hand-dyed fabric and as Gardenista Vine as well. So pick and choose your favorite motif and how the colors work together. Okay. Now, on to the double borders. I really wanted to include in this week's kind of reintroduction of our wide Batik Cotton a few of the double borders. And they kind of get missed now and again because they are a border fabric. I have used the borders in our, if you go to our Sew Batik home page on the website, you are going to see duvet covers, shower curtains, pillow shams, and so many things, tablecloths, the table runners, anything that you would love to have a border in. This is what our double border is. And this is the color. I'm going to give you the three colors. This is Copen Blue. This is Dusty Denim. Excuse me. And then we have Tuxedo Brass. And each one of these is made up of a border. This is the selvage edge. There's a border that's about 10 to 11 inches, and it's on each selvage edge. So think of a 115-inch wide fabric that you have a selvage with a border. The center is our Phoenix motif, and this is completely from border to border. We have the Phoenix motif going throughout the fabric. And it's just an amazing way to use a border, whether it be in a backing, for a quilt backing, whether it is your duvet cover. I'll put a couple of pictures up of projects that we've done with and featuring really the design of the border itself and how it can be used without having to cut it off, reattach it, you know, whatever. But it's just really a beautiful fabric to work with. And I hope I can find this picture, but throughout the week I'll post Ray from Fit for Art made an amazing tunic using this fabric, the border batik and cotton, her Carpe Diem tunic. I believe that was the one it was. I'm going to double check, but it was just so gorgeous. And you lay out your garment so that the hem of the garment is right along the edge of the border, so you get the whole effect of a border without having to stitch together multiple pieces of fabric to get that look. It's a wonderful way to use the border in a cotton even for a long jacket, like I said, a tunic, or any other garment as well. I really love today's Jersey Knit collection. It is fall in kind of feeling, and I actually have made garments out of several of these. The first fabric here on the left is our Violetta in the shade of Dusty Denim. And this is its coordinate. This is the hand-dyed Dusty Denim. It has hints of gray going through it. And see how this curls? It is 72 inches wide, and it's our jersey. It's a little bit bluer in shade than the next fabric, which is Phoenix Lagoon. Phoenix Lagoon we have in multiple substrates actually, and this is, I made a lark t-shirt, 3/4 length t-shirt out of this one, and I really love it because it goes with so many different things. There's accents of browns and just really a dusty shade going through it, but it's not quite as blue as you'll find in the Dusty Denim, but it's close. Next is the Violetta motif in Ivy. I think the top I made out of this one and I featured is the square neck top by Friday Fabric or Pattern Company. Just really beautiful, rich green. And this is the Violetta in Ivy. Next we have a fan favorite. This is our Gardenista Vine in the shade of Lake. I have another lark tee out of this one, long sleeve round neck tee. You know how you sometimes can find garment patterns that you use over and over and over again? I think the square neck top and the lark and a couple of McCall's patterns. They're just my go-tos for anytime I need to make another knit top for the fall, or for the summer if you have short sleeve or sleeveless top. This is Medora Flora, and this is the shade of Dusty Topaz. Just really light hints of that deep blue shade that you'll see throughout the motif. I really love this one. I think I have to make something out of this. This is gorgeous. And last but not least is our Phoenix motif. This is the shade of Navy Jewel. I have a color blocked dress out of this, where this was used as the shoulder bodice portion of the dress, and then the hand-dyed lake was the main skirt of the dress. So the lake, and possibly there might be another shade that would be used to pull out some of the little purples and teal and turquoise colors that flow through this motif. So this is this week's summer savings event featured fabrics, and it's really fun to go back through and share some of our fabrics with you each and every week. Next, we will talk about the rayon. I think we selected quite a diverse collection of Batik rayon for this week's featured fabrics. And there's several new fabrics in here, as well as some that are fan favorites, and I think you'll really enjoy. So the first one is our Medora Flora motif, and this is the shade of Pinot Noir. And this is the rayon version of, if you've been following along, of the fabric that I used as my binding and coordinate to those open wide zipper pouches from last week. Here is hand-dyed lilac. You know, we haven't been featuring a lot of just the hand-dyed fabrics, and I just think that this has such beautiful movement to it, and it's just such a gorgeous color. We have several motif fabrics in the shade of lilac as well. This is Valhalla Purple Magic. And you know something, this is like a really beautiful fabric shade for this fall and winter. I just think that it has so much movement to it, and I think the deep, deep blue background really sets off the purple inside the motif. Here is Violetta Delft, and you know, what's there to say about the Delft? It's just absolutely gorgeous, and it's just a perfect staple for anybody who absolutely loves blue. I love this fabric. I'm trying to think if I have anything out of that particular fabric. This is our hand-dyed sapphire, and we've used this before in a recent, we did a color block top that I probably can put up a picture of, and this is the hand-dyed sapphire. Look at all the different shades of teal and blue. This is coconut, hand-dyed coconut, and boy, we have had this in our collection for quite some time, and it's just a wonderful fabric. We use it a lot to accent other colorways as well. It is the gold that's in the, see this lake, the Phoenix Lake. It just goes really well as an accent to maybe a more predominant Phoenix Lake fabric, or any others that have the gold in it, like Tuxedo Brass as well. So this is the hand-dyed coconut, and here is the Phoenix Lake. I love always including one that is from our colorway of lake. Here's another new fabric, and this is our Medora Flora motif in the shade of Dark Emerald. Another gorgeous green. And I have two more green fabrics. This is our hand-dyed Ivy. I have a couple tops out of Ivy, or the shade of Ivy and the green fabrics, and I just love them. I never really thought I would look good in a green, but I really love it. And here is Legacy is the motif, and this also is the shade of Ivy. And as you can probably see, this is a directional fabric, okay? But this is one selvage up here and one selvage down here. So you'll have to do some planning, laying out a project with the Legacy. And I have a couple of jackets that have Legacy as the main fabric and then our hand-dyed coordinate as the accent on the front facing. Just really beautiful. Here is Gardeny's Divine motif in the shade of True Indigo. And this is really a deep, deep blue. And, you know, I kind of think the shade that is running through the motif itself is more of a, it's kind of like a dusty gray. And I just love this blue. I think it's just so rich. And you could wear this with black as well. You probably wouldn't even know the difference, but it's really a deep blue. And then today I thought I would bring out our hand-dyed Azalea, which is our red. And also one of our border fabrics, which is Azalea. And this is Durham Dreams. I have several. I have a jacket and a tunic made out of this fabric, and a dress. The willow dress is also from this fabric. Now, if you think about, you know, Azalea is one of these colorways, as with a couple others that are subtle, from dye lot to dye lot, or from our production runs that are each, they will come back just a little bit different. It would be wonderful if every hand-dyed fabric came back exactly as we expect from our sample. But they really rarely do. And it's always good to double check with us to see what coordinates if you are planning to use a hand-dyed with one that has Azalea in it, because you can see with this image here that they're very different. And so never ever fear to ask for a swatch so you know how to plan your project. So these are our Batik Rayon fabrics for this week's special, and it's so fun to reintroduce each fabric. And now I have an answer to a customer question. A couple weeks ago, this garment on this mannequin caught somebody's eye, and she asked a couple of questions about this specific garment and the shawl that is on top of this garment and what pattern it was from. And so I'll get down to the answer real quick. This is a Buttrick pattern, and it is number 6356. This pattern has a lot of options to it. It can be a shawl all by itself. You can make your own shawl. You can make a cover up, which is, actually I'm going to stand up here and show you this. And I've made each one of these. This is a cover up that is simply fabric that's cut. You can use a border fabric. One of our border fabrics would be just gorgeous with that particular cover up. I see this lengthened as like a swimsuit cover up. I think that would be gorgeous for that. Similar to this one up here. Here is the shawl. You can make a single shawl to cover up a dress or a tank top with slacks. If you're going out for the evening and it's a little chilly, that would be a great shawl. So this just gives you the measurements and how to finish each one of the edges and the hems. This is the main portion of this pattern. And there's a tank top and a shawl, but it is kind of deceiving unless you take a look at the back of the pattern itself, okay? And I'm gonna show you what we did here. This garment, I chose two different fabrics. This is the hand-dyed brown bark, and this is our Gardeny's Divine in the same colorway. First of all, the tank top is a traditional tank. It's a very nicely styled tank with side slits as well. So it has a lot of movement to it. And then the way this is constructed is the shawl is attached to the tank top, if you're following the pattern, and it's loose up in the front. That is not attached, but it's attached all the way around on the back neckline. Okay. And so there's a lot of fabric here. There's the shawl itself here, and then there's another piece below that adds length to this kind of an elegant, flowy look to this cover up. And there's a slit and finished edges right down the back, but the entire back neckline and the shoulder is attached. So all of this is one piece, okay? So without really looking at this and inspecting it and reading the pattern after you've purchased it, you would never know how all of this goes together. I should probably do an entire pattern review and the details about this particular garment and what to look for when you're looking at patterns in a pattern book or at a store or even online. Because some things can be, it's not deceiving. It's just simply you don't know until you read all of the information about the pattern. So there's a couple of things that I would do differently with this garment, because all in all, it must take, the tank top probably takes 1.5 yards, if that, but the shawl itself, the cover up here, takes another 3/4 yards. And then these pieces down here take another yard. And so it's a lot of fabric for something that should be a simple cover up. So I have already taken this apart at one point in time to always use my tank top separate from the cover up. To me, you should be able to use this more than once and in more than one way. So we have a tank top underneath that, hey, you could use that and wear that with a different cover up or a jacket or another outfit. And so don't attach the shawl to cover up here to the tank top. Leave them separate. It'll still look beautiful and it'll still hang well because of the way that it's constructed. So just separating those facings, and you'd need a little bit more fabric for the facing of the tank top versus the shawl, because you need 2 different ones. But that's what I would have separate always. Then the cover up itself, the shawl cover up, is really elegant. You could use this by itself, and then you would have the back of your tank top showing, which would be fine. Or there's a way, and I have a little cheat sheet that I have to get as a PDF download, where we combine the length of the back to make this one piece of fabric and shorten in the front as well. And so you don't need as much fabric for this. I love the style. I just think that there's a simplified way to execute this look. And I'll put together a little cheat sheet, and maybe on our website, there's a blog section, inspiration, where I can detail out how I did that, okay? But I wanted to make sure that I answered our customer's question about, what this pattern is, how it's put together, because I think it's really worthy of a conversation, because it's beautiful. And I can see this with a long skirt for a wedding or an evening out, with just slacks and a nice little cover. So many ways to wear something that has a really classic style to it. And I just love this neckline. That's my favorite neckline of all garments. So anyway, that is what I wanted to touch base on today. And of course, these are the rayon, so that's why it looks so beautifully drapey as well. So, okay, so we've talked about the sweatshirt, update on our gradation quilt, which I'm going to work on this weekend, and our summer savings fabric selection. So let me know if you have any specific questions, anything that you want me to address on our next Fabric Friday or throughout the week. And enjoy your Friday. Keep sewing, smiling, and sharing.